Oh dear, this is not how I wanted a last dance to happen.
Yo, dudes, the Empire's pretty chill. Maybe you could, join it or something.
Hey everyone, Lucimus Prime here. So, it's time for another movie review today, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing this time a comic book movie which is a third installment featuring an anti-hero, an adversary of my favourite superhero, Spider-Man. And this is a third one in franchise, and also what apparently is going to be the last appearance of this character as well, so this is basically the end of a trilogy. This was, of course, released in 2024, and the film, of course, I'm reviewing is none other than 2024's Venom: The Last Dance. So, now, how was this film made then? So, following, of course, the release of the first movie, Venom from 2018, Tom Hardy revealed he was under contract to appear in 2 more sequels as Eddie Brock and the voice of Venom, the symbiote he was voicing. And Sony Pictures began development of this film in December 2021 after the release of the second film, Venom: Let There Be Carnage. And Kelly Marcel and Tom Hardy were also writing the script by June 2022 as well. And Kelly Marcel was also set to make a directorial debut in this film as well in that October. And new cast members joined in the middle of 2023, and filming began at the end of June 2023 in Spain. However, production was halted due to a 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike, and then later resumed that November after the strike ended, and the film was then completed at the end of February 2024, and the title of Venom: The Last Dance was also revealed a month later. The film premiered at the Regal Times Square Theatre in New York City on October 21st, 2024, and was released in the United States on October 25th. The film received mixed reviews from critics, and while criticism was aimed at the screenplay, while Tom Hardy's performance, the action sequences, and visual effects were praised, it became a box office success, having grossed $479 million worldwide. When it comes to my reaction to this film then, so when this film, of course, first released, I didn't hear much good things about it, so I was really concerned about it. And based on trailers, I was hoping it was going to be good from what I saw from the trailers, and I finally got on to watching it on Boxing Day when it came onto video on demand. And when it comes to our thoughts of it, well, compared to, of course, critics who thought the film was terrible, I personally think this film was a very mediocre disappointment. I mean, I don't think it's trash by any means. I just think it's a very mediocre disappointment. Definitely, in my opinion, the weakest of the trilogy. But it does have some good moments in it, which I will talk about. But definitely, in my opinion, a disappointment. Because I feel there was lots of missed opportunities in this film, so many of them. And it could have been so much better, in my opinion, because I love the second film, Let There Be Carnage. It's my favourite out of the 3 films, and I was hoping this third film would have continued what made that film so good, but sadly not, which really sucks. So what is the movie about then? So in this film, of course, Eddie Brock and his symbiote Venom are on the run from both of their worlds, basically. So they're both on the run. Now, when it comes to I think this film then, so while I think, of course, it's a mediocre disappointment and a disappointing end to, of course, this franchise of the Venom character, I do think it does have some good moments in it. So one example I can say is I think it's got a good cast of actors. So I, of course, loved the return of Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock and Venom, because, as always, he did a great job playing both characters, like he always has done in his trilogy, and it's always going to be my favourite role of his, and he's, to this day, my favourite Venom of all time, because I think, of course, he was a perfect casting for a character, and in this film, he continued to do a great job playing a character like he always has done, like in previous 2 films. And he and the Venom symbiote, Eddie and Venom, both had really good chemistry with each other in this film, and their banter was really funny as well in this once again. So at least they still had that, and they, of course, made the film watchable, thankfully, because they were entertaining, both of them were. And I think Tom Hardy really did a good job in this film. And in addition to that, I also as well liked the appearance of Chiwetel Ejiofor as the character General Rex Strickland, who is the Imperium commander who is tracking down Eddie and capturing Venom. I think Chiwetel Ejiofor is a great actor, and I think in this film he did a really good job playing Strickland in this film. And I'm also really glad that this film did not have him play his previous Marvel character Baron Mordo from the MCU. I'm so glad that they had him play a brand new character for this film, and thank goodness for that, because I was worried they'd, of course, do all this multiverse rubbish like how other films in Marvel have done recently, and it's not made sense. But thankfully, however, he, of course, played a new character, which I really appreciated, and they focused, of course, on Eddie's universe in this, which I really appreciated. I also like the addition as well of Juno Temple as Dr. Teddy Payne as well in this film, and also as well, I also like as well the return of other characters from previous films. For example, Peggy Lou appears in this film as Mrs. Chen, who of course is the convenience store owner who is friends with Eddie. And I did like the scene, of course, where Eddie as Venom gets to dance with her to a song Dancing Queen by ABBA. Definitely a very nice, fun scene as well to see, and seeing her, of course, in Las Vegas as well. Would have been cool if we got more of her though, because I really liked the scenes in the first two films. She was pretty funny in the first two films. Would have been cool to see more of Mrs. Chen, but sadly that's all we got of her really, which was a bit disappointing. And I also as well liked the return of Stephen Graham in this film as Detective Patrick Mulligan as well, who of course comes back in this after being left dead by Carnage in the previous movie. I think Stephen Graham did a very good job of playing Patrick Mulligan in these films, and in this film he was once again really good what he was given. And I also as well like the addition of Rhys Ifans as the alien enthusiast character called Martin Moon. And just like with Chills Edge for, I'm also so glad that he also played a brand new character in this film, considering that before he played the Lizard in, of course, The Amazing Spider-Man, and of course in Spider-Man No Way Home. I like how this did focus on Eddie's universe and had him, of course, play a brand new character. I was really glad they didn't do all that multiverse rubbish, because I feel like that's really badly affecting films nowadays. But thankfully, in this case, he played a brand new character. And I also, as well, really like the addition as well of Andy Serkis as the creator of symbiotes, Null. I think Andy Serkis did a very good job playing Null in this film and gave him a very menacing voice as well. He's a great actor. I think he did a really brilliant job playing Null in this film. Would have been cool if we got more of Null, to be honest, but I still think Andy Serkis did a very good job playing Null, what he had, in my opinion. It is pretty confusing, though, how he directed Let It Be Carnage, but he didn't return to direct this film, even though he expressed interest in doing so, yet he does come back in some form, because in this film he plays Null. So it would have been interesting, really, if we got more of Null in this, really, because I think Andy Serkis was great as him. Would have been cool to see more of him, really, but sadly not. And as well as, of course, the cast of actors in this film, I also think the film has really good visual effects once again. So I think the effects for symbiotes themselves, in my opinion, are really well done once again, like in the first two films. I still think they were really good in this film. And when it comes to action scenes in this film, I think they're good, in my opinion, too. But one thing that I feel this film lacks compared to the first two films is definitely the number of scenes, because I feel that this film doesn't really have very much action compared to the first two films, which is very disappointing, in my opinion. So that's one thing. But for what it's worth, the action scenes were good to watch, in my opinion. Although, in my opinion, they could have been so much better, because I feel this one lots of missed opportunities. And I also like the musical score by Dan Deacon in this film as well. I thought it was really good. And also when it comes to the songs in this film, I already mentioned they featured Dancing Queen by ABBA, but I also like how it also featured a song which was original for this film called The Last Dance in the credits. I thought it was a pretty good song. I think it's called One Last Dance by Tom Morello. I thought it was a pretty good song for the credits. And I really like the music in this film. And so those are probably like the good qualities of this film, being that it's got a good cast of actors, good visual effects, and also good action scenes for what it is worth, despite not being much of them. And also as well, really good soundtrack as well. However, when it comes to bad qualities, I feel that this film is so disappointing, because it definitely, in my opinion, is probably the most boring out of the films, really, because when it comes to the first film, I thought its first act was a little bit slow-paced, but this film, however, I feel has lots of slow-paced acts, unfortunately, which really sucks. And that's because there's not very much action in this film, which I feel is very disappointing, because it's supposed to be a Venom film, and there's not much action. Come on. Like, I was hoping it would have as much action or more action than Let It Be Carnage, but unfortunately not. There was barely an image, which was disappointing. And when it comes as well to Mulligan in this film as well, while I did like Return of Stephen Graham as him in this film, one thing they did with his character which I was so disappointed about is they did not have him bond to a symbiote Toxin like in the comics, because I really wanted to see Mulligan bond to Toxin, and unfortunately we didn't get that at all. He just bonded with some random symbiote. I didn't know if I was Toxin or not, but like, why couldn't we have him bond to Toxin? And also, not to mention, despite, of course, appearing to have died at the end of the second film, he survived, he dies again in this film. So, what was the point of bringing him back if you're going to kill him off again? What was the point? yeah, so disappointing if you ask me, really. And so I feel this film had lots of missed opportunities right there. One, of course, being Toxin not being included. And also when it comes to Null, I feel like he was only in this film just for the purpose of sequel baiting, which in my opinion is completely redundant because they're saying that apparently this is going to be the last Venom film in this Sony-verse of Marvel films. So what was the point of having Null be there just for sequel baiting when there's not going to be any sequels? So I feel that Null could have been used much better, probably as like a main villain. Like, it would have been cool if he actually got freed from his prison and you know, came to Earth to fight Venom. Like, that would have been pretty cool if you ask me, really, like an epic conclusion, but unfortunately not. Because get this, right? My blue for film says right here, the best of a trilogy. Nah, in my opinion, it's not the best. In my opinion, the best one of a trilogy is the second film, Let There Be Carnage. Like, this film, in my opinion, is just so disappointing. Like, I don't think it's terrible by any means. I just think it's the most disappointing of the films, and definitely for me, the weakest of the three. That's what I'll say, really. Like, because in my opinion, it's a letdown compared to the first two films, but Tom Hardy was the best part of the film, both what it was with he saved the film with his great acting as Eddie and Venom, in my opinion. But I feel that the film was such a letdown because of that, because of lots of missed opportunities and also sequel baiting. And speaking of that, despite, of course, this film apparently having an ending where Venom as a symbiote actually sacrifices himself by destroying, of course, the aliens known as the xenophages in the acid, and also a grenade going off from Strickland, who got mortally wounded, they had some dumb sequel baiting at the end of this film in credit scenes, which really sucks. For example, there's a mid-credit scene which features Null, who declares the world is no longer safe now that Venom has fallen. So he was basically saying he's going to escape from his prison. But that was, of course, dumb sequel baiting for more to come, which is probably not going to happen. And then we get a post-credit scene because if you guys remember Spider-Man No Way Home's credit scene, which featured Eddie at that bar on holiday, when he got transported to MCU, he was talking to a bartender before he got brought back to his universe. Well, that same bartender appears in this film alongside his counterpart from Eddie's universe, played by the same actor Christoph Fernandez. He comes out of the wreckage of the base after he got taken into custody by Strickland, and nearby we see a cockroach crawling around next to a broken vial which contained the sample of Venom symbiote. So right there, that was, of course, a setup, of course, implying that the Venom symbiote's not truly gone, he's still alive. So I really don't understand what the point was of having Venom sacrifice himself, only, of course, to have him teased to return in, of course, a post-credit scene in films that are probably not going to happen. Because this is made out to be, of course, the last film of the franchise. It's been confirmed to be the last one of the trilogy. So what was the point of this sequel baiting? Yeah, I really don't get that at all. So, like, if you ask me, they shouldn't have included any credit scenes at all and given a better ending, if you ask me, really. Because I feel that the film lacked so much, maybe the first two films so good. Because when it comes, of course, to the films, I think the first film, in my opinion, is a really underrated, fun movie. And is a good start to a franchise, in my opinion. And, of course, the second film, Let There Be Carnage, is my personal favourite. I personally think this was the best of a trilogy. But this film, in my opinion, is a disappointment compared to those, unfortunately, which really sucks. So, when it comes to final thoughts on Venom: The Last Dance, it's definitely, in my opinion, a disappointing end to a franchise. And it could have been so much better, in my opinion, because there was lots of missed opportunities with the characters, especially when it comes to Mulligan, because he didn't become Toxin like in the comics. And not to mention, as well, the ending, in my opinion, was very questionable and not well executed, what's supposed to be a finale. So, that just absolutely sucked, in my opinion, how they did that. But when it comes to what I thought was good about the film, well, Tom Hardy, of course, was the best part as Eddie and Venom. The action scenes, thought it was worth, were good, despite there not being many of them. Music was also good too, as well, and the visuals and the CGI were also really good as well when it comes to symbiotes, for example. I thought the CGI and the designs from were really good too, in my opinion. All the different symbiotes we see in the film. And also the xenophage designs were really good. And I also like Noel's design as well, for it was worth, even though it didn't really appear in the film very much. Would have been cool if it got more of him though. And Andy Serkis was a great casting as Noel. Had a very good voice for a role. It's a pity he wasn't used very much in the film. It could have been used much better if you ask me. But nonetheless, I still think the film was decent, but definitely, for me, the weakest of a trilogy, because it was disappointing, if you ask me, with so many inconsistencies and missed opportunities, just with a letdown, really. So, if I was to give this film a score out of 10, I would probably give it, for me, a very mediocre score of 6 out of 10. That's what I'd give it. And for me, it's the weakest of a trilogy. My number one favourite, of course, being Let There Be Carnage, and my second and third being the first movie, and then in third place will be this movie. So, this is me, to my review for Venom: The Last Dance. So, you know the drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to let me know in the comments what you guys think of this film. If you've seen it, let me know in the comments below. Also, be sure to join Team Prime by pressing subscribe for who's coming in the future. And we are Venom.